Now that's interesting. This podcast is about the Georgia Tech Sam Nunn School of International Affairs. Its graduates, their careers, and how the Nunn School has helped to shape their future. Take a listen. Welcome back to Now That's Interesting. I'm Stephanie Jackson.
And I'm Sydney Polanka.
Today, we would like to continue our series on minors. We would like to welcome Kayleigh Nortje, a senior business administration major and global development minor student from Georgia Tech, who will be graduating this December.
While at Georgia Tech, Kayleigh has worked as a volunteer with Partnership Against Domestic Violence, Outreach 360, and WWOOF USA. In addition, Kayleigh has worked as an event coordinator for Alumni Connections Committee of Georgia Tech, as part of new student engagement for the Georgia Tech Orientation Cabinet, and as a student assistant at the Office of the President at Georgia Tech. Kayleigh also completed a study abroad at the Universidad Carlos III de Madrid and an internship at the Carter Center as a Syrian conflict mapping intern.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Kayleigh.
Thank you for having me and for that lovely introduction.
Great. You've certainly been involved while you've been in school.
Thanks. Yeah, I've tried.
As I said, we've been running this podcast series on alumni that have earned our minors, and we thought that with the end of the semester approaching, it would be a good idea to hear a perspective from a student that is soon to graduate, and what your experiences in college and having this minor have meant for you and your ideas on what you might do next. So I would like to begin our conversation by asking you a few questions about your pursuing the global development minor.
Yeah.
First, I recall you actually started at Georgia Tech as an IAML student.
Yes.
But now you're a business administration major with a focus on information technology management. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So how did you learn of the global development minor?
So I think I learned about it after I made the switch to business administration, and I still really had an interest in pursuing or maintaining a focus in international relations. And I think I was kind of doing some research and seeing how I could maybe tie in a minor or what minors I could pursue at the same time. And then I saw global development and I read a little bit about it, and it seemed like there would be some really great crossovers between IT management and then also still maintaining that perspective of international affairs and global development. Just kind of through some searching. Yeah.
So how have you seen the topics that you covered in this minor, you kind of hinted towards that, overlap with your major studies in IT management?
Yeah, I think especially recently I've seen it within some of my final courses. I'm currently in a class called Technology and Poverty with Dr. Neha Kumar, and it's been really interesting to kind of understand and be in a class also with computer science majors and then master's students, and hearing their perspectives of technology and development. And so I'm working on a final research paper. And in one of my other business classes, we talked about policy and more specifically with health records and HIPAA. And so it's been interesting kind of to now have a final research paper where I can really see a lot of the intersections coming in from my other business classes. I'm also in a coding class, so kind of seeing, the biases that overlap in programming and how that has an impact on individuals. So I think it's really been great to kind of have both sides of humanities and then business, and kind of coming into classes with different perspectives about it's not just about the bottom line. And I think that's something I've definitely been more conscious about by taking global development classes and, hearing perspectives of people who maybe have done other volunteer things outside of campus. So that's been really great.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now we would like to move on to a little bit talking about some of your experiences while at Georgia Tech. So you've worked in various roles at Georgia Tech, including stints with the Student Alumni Association and with Facet. And so tell us a little bit about each of these experiences.
Yeah, so the Student Alumni Association, that was actually one of the first organizations that I was involved with at Tech. And I kind of happened to stumble into it because I think, you know, during your first year, you get lots of emails about joining organizations. And so I was like, why not give it a shot? And I think looking back on it, it was really invaluable because, I mean, it definitely put me out of my comfort zone because part of my role was connecting students with alumni and planning faculty dinners and these events where, you know, alumni would host us and they would tell us about their experiences at Georgia Tech and their careers and what we could do to kind of advance our careers. And definitely being a first year at Tech, I felt like I was not qualified really to, you know, talk to these alumni that were amazing, and then also coordinating between master's students and older students. But it was really a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, and it was a great way to make connections with others. And it was really kind that they gave so much responsibility to someone who just came to college, and they put that trust in me. And I'm really grateful that they did. And then with Facet, I've been involved with Facet also since my summer after my first year. And it's kind of where I found a community and a way to give back to Georgia Tech. And it's been a lot of fun, you know, inviting the new students to come to Georgia Tech and telling them about the incredible opportunities, and also, you know, getting to tell them about my minor and then the experiences that I've had while being here. And then being on cabinet, it was also definitely put me out of my comfort zone and trying to lead others and build them up as leaders. And so it was a different role than I'd had when I was actually an orientation leader.
Yeah. And so how has seeing this administration or leadership side of Georgia Tech affected your course of study throughout your time here?
Yeah. I would also definitely say that having the opportunity to be a student assistant at the Office of the President has given me an interesting perspective on the inner workings of what goes on with the administration of Georgia Tech and how much support, you know, it really takes to run an institute. And so I've really appreciated being able to have that unique perspective, and really just seeing how much communication takes place between all the departments that we don't usually see, and, you know, the thought processes that have to go into the decisions, and how much weight, you know, the presidents feel, even though we can't always see that. And so I think it's been really humbling to be able to see that, and how much, you know, it really does impact the people in leadership roles, like maybe the heavier things that have gone on campus and how much they carry that weight as well. So that's been really special, I think, especially during my time here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool that you've been able to see that side of Georgia Tech as well. And so for students who may want to get involved, whether with the Alumni Association, Facet, even working as a student assistant places, what advice would you give them to find these jobs or to be able to work in these organizations during their time at Georgia Tech?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, I know Facet looked a little different this past year with everything going on, but generally there's an organization fair, and I think they were able to kind of do that virtually in some capacity, I want to say. But I think really just, you know, I signed up for ballroom dancing, or maybe you accidentally sign up for too many clubs when you first come, you know. But it's great to still get those emails and see those opportunities. And I think there are lots of people tabling on Skiles. And so it's always fun to kind of just talk to people and hear about their experiences. Even if you don't want to join, maybe it could lead to something really great. And I think also just talking to older members in like organizations that you might join and seeing what other experiences they've had. And like maybe you'll stumble into something really great. But I would also say, you know, venture out of your comfort zone and try something new. Like with Student Alumni Association, I, you know, never really thought about planning events or doing that sort of thing, but it offered a great experience. Or doing Facet, being an orientation leader, you know, I never really thought I could do it, but people encouraged me to try out, and I'm very grateful that they did. So I would just say, you know, go out on a limb, sign up for emails, and if you don't want to do it, you can ignore it and unsubscribe, but, you know, maybe perhaps you'll stumble into something really great.
That's interesting. The experiences that you've had, on campus. And so that kind of extends into some of your other volunteer work. Looks like you've had some other volunteer opportunities that you've been involved with, including Outreach
Yeah.
360 and WWOOF USA. So, and you hinted to this a little bit earlier, but tell us, how have these experiences impacted your studies of global development or business, or helped shape what you think you might do in your future career?
Yeah. I would say Outreach 360, that was incredible because that was actually part of um, the alternative service breaks on campus. And so it's really great
Mm-hmm.
that they set up those opportunities for students too, and that they really encourage anyone to go. But I feel really
Mm-hmm.
lucky to have been able to go to the Dominican Republic and kind of participate in teaching students. And it was great because I got to use some Spanish that I hadn't used in a while and see another side of teaching. And after that
Mm-hmm.
experience, oh my gosh, I just have so much respect for teachers because I had no idea how complicated lesson planning was. So um, I think that was a great experience. So, like, a lot of respect for my professors and all my teachers throughout high school and middle school and everything. So, I think that was, a really great perspective to see and how much teachers really do impact their students. And, like how your
Mm-hmm.
work really just has a way of impacting all of those around you. So, taking that, throughout college and even doing the little things and how volunteering allows you to like open new doors and see
Mm-hmm.
different sides, especially in the Dominican too, and seeing how kind everyone was. And then
Mm-hmm.
the woofing is what they call it. I actually did it this past summer during the pandemic, and we were up in Maine for a month on a farm. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it
wow.
was incredible. And they had livestock and they were a Scottish heritage farm. So they had, the shaggy Highland cows, which is awesome. Um, yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. And so I think that was also an interesting perspective because the women who owned the farm and who worked on there, they were actually skeptical of technology. And I think my friend and I who went together, we were kind of taken aback by that because I think being at a tech school, I think technology does have incredible potential, but also being aware that some people don't see that. So I think that's something that I've been able to bring both to business and to global development and kind of seeing, why people are skeptical and like we might think that it will solve a lot of problems, but how other people might not
Yeah.
believe that. So I thought that was interesting. And then, from working on a farm, they talked a lot about sustainability and the impacts of how we eat
Mm-hmm.
and just everything. And we'd have like hour-long discussions at breakfast before we were like, okay, we should probably actually go do some work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was interesting to hear their takes on how we can make a difference by just the small things. And so I think that's also helped me see that I really want to work somewhere that values working towards sustainability and having a positive impact on the environment and
Mm-hmm.
also towards helping people and being aware of their skepticisms and what they really want from technology, or do they even want technology, instead of maybe imposing those onto people. So that
Yeah.
was definitely a really interesting experience for me.
Okay. What kind of advice would you give to students who might be seeking similar types of impactful volunteer experiences, that allow them to, see some of the theories that they review in class come to life in some sort of practical experience? What advice would you give to students who are seeking those kinds of
Yeah.
experiences to volunteer with different organizations?
um I would say definitely kind of think about some of the things that you'd always hoped or dreamed that you'd wanted to do. Like going to the Dominican and going abroad. I always thought that'd be not specifically the Dominican, but working in a Spanish speaking country. And look for those
Mhm.
opportunities around you because I think there really are more than we recognize. And Georgia Tech has tons of incredible opportunities, and you don't even have to go far to really have an impact. And so I think looking for organizations that kind of fit your interests, whether you're interested in medicine or maybe STEM or policy, or I think there are tons of, again, organizations on campus that can really help you do that. And even just doing that in Atlanta makes a big difference. So um, I think that's a big thing. And then also with the woofing, it was like just some abstract idea that my friend and I had always talked about doing. And I think sometimes you just have to go for it, and maybe things work out and maybe they don't, but it's always worth a shot. And I would say, don't be afraid of reaching out to, whether it's a professor doing research you're interested in or an organization off campus as well. The worst someone could say is no, and that's okay too. But I would say just sometimes you have to go for it. And definitely that's something I've had to learn because I'm not the best with reaching out or sending emails. So I would say, though, it's definitely worth your time to, just go out on a limb sometimes and do the things that you've always wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, especially as people are finding, what opportunities they want to have during or find during their time at Georgia Tech. And so shifting a little bit to some of your international experiences. So you spent a semester studying abroad at the Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, correct?
That's correct.
And so how did you decide to pursue a study abroad at this university?
Yeah, I think especially just coming into Georgia Tech, I knew I wanted to study abroad, and that was an experience that I really wanted to have. And it kind of just happened to fall during my fall semester of my, I guess my fourth year. And so I also knew I wanted to go to a Spanish-speaking country because I did come in international affairs and modern languages with the concentration in Spanish, and I have always loved the language. And so just having a chance to go somewhere where I had the possibility of practicing it and kind of being immersed in a culture like that. And also, I would say during my time in high school, Spanish was a big part of my experience. And so I really wanted to be able to go to Spain again, and go to Sevilla and, see different parts of Europe as well. I think that was also a big part of it, just having a chance to kind of see the different cultures and experience different things while being there. And so, going through Georgia Tech study abroad programs, I thought that Carlos III, fit a lot of those boxes. And so, yeah, I think it was really great to kind of be able to practice Spanish again, even though it hasn't really been a big part of my studies, and kind of learn more about the culture there and meet new people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely so cool that you've been able to have such an awesome experience there. And so were any of the courses that you took there at the Universidad during your time relevant to your global development minor, or some of the international affairs experience that you've had throughout your minor?
Yeah, I actually ended up taking a lot of business courses there, but I did get to take a class in HR, which was interesting. And even just being in a class, with students from all over the world was really interesting. And I thought tied into the global development minor, just of understanding different cultures, which I think is a big part of it. And, learning about what they care about and how that, affects a business. So I thought even though it wasn't directly a global development class, it did kind of play into a lot of the things that I've talked about in some of my other courses. So I think just like getting to meet people from all over the world. I had group projects, I think, with people from Denmark and Germany. And so I thought that was interesting that, again, it wasn't directly part of global development, but still getting to work with people and learning what they care about was really cool.
Yeah, I think that all those experiences, not just the classes that you take when studying abroad, but other experiences that you have while there are super impactful. So that's awesome that you've had such a great experience there. And so for students who may be thinking about studying abroad, whether in Spain or in other countries, what advice would you give to them?
I would definitely, if you're going to Europe, there's this big program called Erasmus, and I thought, you had to be a European student to be a part of it, but they're really just this big organization that strives to connect people and, have gatherings for people to get to know each other and plan events where you can hang out and meet new people. And that was one thing I wish I definitely done more. So I would say, no matter where you go, if it's Europe or South America or Australia, finding ways to connect with people not only from that country and that culture, but also the people who are coming from other countries, because I think you can really learn a lot and make a lot of great friendship from that. And I would also say, take the time to wander around. It was always really fun, to explore a different city and kind of amble around with no, purpose exactly. And then maybe you find a new coffee shop or, a great park or something where you can sit. So definitely taking the time to get lost, I would say, is really fun. I'm sure that's kind of a cliche one, but would definitely recommend.
What is the cliche? Not all that
Yes.
wander are lost. That's the cliche.
Yeah,
Not all
that's
that
the
wander are
one.
lost. Yeah.
But definitely true, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Okay, I have some questions for you about things that were a little bit outside of
Yeah.
your campus activities. So you had an interesting internship with the
Yes.
Carter Center. Your title was Syrian Conflict
Yes.
Mapping Intern. Tell us about
Okay,
that
well,
role.
actually, a funny story. So I found that role from one of my introduction to global development course, and the founder of that program came and spoke to us, and I was like, wow, this is an incredible, job, and it sounds interesting to kind of have that intersection between technology and also working with people. So I was excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard about that a year before I applied, and then a year to the day that he came to our class, I accepted the position, which was crazy. And it just like, I was telling everyone, I was like, guys, can you believe this? Like, it just seemed otherworldly. I could not believe it. But yeah, that was really great. And I don't think I would have found that opportunity had it not been for my global development class. But it was really interesting, you got to also meet people from Emory and UGA and people from different campuses. And so working with other students was an incredible opportunity. And I think that also definitely put me out of my comfort zone because a lot of the students, maybe were studying public policy or international affairs. And so sometimes I felt a little out of place, but I think everyone was very patient with me and I asked lots of questions. I remember talking to I guess like the other cohort of Syrian mapping interns, I was like, I'm so sorry if I asked a lot of questions. And they're like, no, like ask as many questions as you need. And the team was very supportive. And so it was really great also to kind of understand more about the nonprofit side of working. And I definitely appreciated that now that I have a better understanding of nonprofits. And I actually met someone from Spain, Madrid. And so when I went to Madrid, she was able to pick us up from the airport, which was incredible. And I also wouldn't have had that without my internship. So lots of full circle things, honestly, which is funny. But yeah, definitely an incredible experience. And I think it really showed me the opportunities for kind of those intersections with how can I merge my IT position or like my major with my global development classes. So
Okay. So from that, even though you had a very unique experience in obtaining that internship, for students who might be interested in working either with the Carter Center or finding different types of unique internships like this, what kind of suggestions would you give them, aside from being in a class with a good speaker?
I would say, honestly, LinkedIn is your friend. Someone actually reached out to me on LinkedIn once and they were like, hey, I'm applying for this internship. What can you tell me about? And I think, that's what it's for. It's for making connections with people. So if there's ever, whether it's working at the Carter Center or maybe you want to work at another nonprofit, just reaching out to people. And again, I would say like, I'm also not the best at that and definitely learning how to do that. But, the worst also that could happen is maybe someone doesn't respond or it just doesn't end up working out, but that's okay. But yeah, definitely use LinkedIn, use those resources, look to see where Georgia Tech alum are working and where you already have that immediate connection of going to the same university. And I would say Career Buzz also, you could kind of look there if you wanted to, for some of those experiences. And I would also say recently what I've been learning is if you have an interest in working for a specific company, whether that's a nonprofit or something else, just Googling it and seeing, who can I reach out to and talk to about this opportunity. And if there are any openings, like would they let me know about it? So yeah, I think really if you find something interesting, try to find someone to connect with. And I think people are always more willing to meet up, I guess in this case, virtually than you would think. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so finally, as a kind of wrap up, so first of all, congratulations on your upcoming
It doesn't
graduation.
feel real.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
happened so quickly.
Yeah, and so as a graduating senior, do you have any immediate steps after graduation? Any plans for future career paths, future jobs? Anything that you have planned immediately after
Yeah.
graduating?
I would say I think, also being in a last semester, it's giving me time to really think about what career I want to pursue. And I feel like I'm kind of at a crossroads of figuring that out right now, of merging these two disciplines together. And so I'm interested in a career in cybersecurity. I think that would be really interesting. Um, and I'm hopefully
Mm-hmm.
going to talk to some of my professors to see what their careers have looked like in cybersecurity and what opportunities there are for, recent graduates. So I think that would be one interesting pathway. And then I've also always thought about maybe doing public health in the future. So potentially getting a master's, but I guess that's kind of far out, once I find some funding or something like that. But so yeah, I think those are some of the things that I've recently kind of gravitated towards. And then I think I might stick around on campus for a little bit, working at the office of the president, since there's a lot of movement in there with my boss, and they said they could use some extra help. So it's kind that, they want me to stick around for a little bit. So I have that for maybe a month or two after graduation, I guess. But yeah, currently I'd say kind of figuring out where I want to apply and what exactly career path I would like to follow. So I guess, like I said, reaching out to people and just talking to them about their opportunities and what they've done to get to where they are in their careers. So lots of talking to people, which will be interesting, I hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super exciting. Well, we can't wait to hear everything that you do in the future. And so one last final question. So for anyone who's possibly considering the minor in global development, what words of advice would you have for them based off of the experiences that you've had within this minor?
I would definitely say it's been like one of the best decisions I've made for my time at Georgia Tech, just because of all the opportunities and windows it's opened for me. And I think I've really appreciated how it's kind of taught me to think slightly differently, and keeping in mind, the people side of it and how your actions really have bigger impacts than maybe we think. And so I think it's been a really, no matter if you're doing STEM or if you're doing public policy or whatever career or major you choose, I think it really has given me a lot of windows into things that I hadn't thought about before, which I think is really great. I think there was a quote, something about education is not the learning of the facts, but the training of the mind to think. And I really think that global development has helped me think in different ways, which I love, and especially in kind of conjunction with the business major, where maybe you focus more on the bottom line and forget about the people aspect of it. I think it's been an invaluable combination. I think it can really be invaluable for anybody, no matter what you're thinking about doing. So yeah, I really loved it.
We're glad that you did, and we're glad that you completed that particular minor. We want to thank you for your time today, Kayleigh. Great. This has been an insightful conversation, and I think you really made some really strong points about the benefits and the importance of making connections throughout your academic career. We do wish you the best in your future, and we hope that you're staying safe and healthy during this time, and we look forward to hearing more about your future successes. Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is produced by the Sam Nunn School of International Affairs at Georgia Tech, developing policymakers for the 21st century. Music is Afternoon Nap by Ghost Rifter Official, used under a Creative Commons Attribution, Share Alike 3.0, unported license.